Hey guys, welcome back to my podcast of Is English Really Your Thing? And today's episode is going to be under the category of Did you read that book? Today's book will be Life of Pi by Jan Martel. I am your host, Mashal Mahmoud, and now let's get started. So, as you can tell, Life of Pi actually has three parts in it. Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. And now, if we start, what we're gonna do today is we're gonna analyze each part and basically the character's development and their growth, as I've said or mentioned before. Now, starting with the protagonist, Pisin Molitor Patel, also known as Pai Patel, we can see a huge development on his part. In part 1, we get to explore his childhood, essentially before the shipwreck, and how innocent and simple his life was. He was an eager young boy, filled with curiosity and ambition to discover and learn anything and everything. Like, his biggest worries were literally how people spell and pronounce his name. Now, I can so relate to that with my name being Masha. Like, the amount of people who don't know how to pronounce it. Anyway, so just like any coming of age book, Pi is dependent to his family and does not have much knowledge of the cruelty of the world and what it has to offer. He's so curious and spiritual that he learns about many different religions and actually adopts them and practices them in his life, such as Hindu, Islam, and Christianity. Now, many of us might think that it is not possible, but Pi has a different, innocent view of the world until we were hit in part 2, the shipwreck. At that moment, Pi had to immediately grow up and become independent. Not only that, but he needs to quickly adapt to his circumstances, being all alone and becoming resourceful. His faith has been stronger than ever. He shows resilience, strength, and determination in order to learn how to live with a Bengali tiger. How many of us can say we're capable of doing that? And for one moment he decides to lose hope, he would not have made it. His character, not so innocent, but now emotionally grown, his morals and views of the world are completely changed, and he goes into survival mode. Now one's vegetarian, and now he eats meat, and basically it is the key in his life. Now one can say he was the tiger, his animal instincts coming to life and his civilized manners escape. But then, in part 3, he is self-assured man when he offers 2 stories to the Japanese police. He knows the truth, and he is mature enough to not need anyone else's validation. Now, with every good story, a protagonist needs its antagonist. And in this case, it's Richard Parker. And no, he's not a human, but he's actually the Bengali tiger. One might even think it's the wild side of Pi. Or is it a symbol of Pi's conscience? Now, in part 1, we see a clueless, naive Bengali tiger in the zoo trapped in a cage. So very domestic and tamed, unknowing of the realities of the world, which is similarly to Pi. But then part 2 comes in and the tiger is out in the wild, who needs to act on his wild instincts in order to survive. Or could it be Pi's instincts? Now in part 2, Richard's not your average tiger, but he's actually talking, and he helps Pi survive by showing him that he needs to eat, or making him adapt to his abilities and his instincts in basically eating meat. But then again, he's still tamed and he's still trained not to kill by Pi, so not completely free yet. One says even Pi was learning from Richard, or maybe he was staring at himself all along. But then lastly, in part 3, the tiger runs into the forest and is never seen again. And it shows the theme of liberation and free spirit. But then, was he trapped all along? Or is it a symbol of Pi's spirit being freed? Or even Pi's views of the world as its true self? I think we've covered enough today. And honestly, I'm still mind blown. It was a good story, nonetheless different and very thought provoking. So I think that's going to be the wrap up of today's story. But thank you so much for listening and have a great day. Stay tuned for more episodes with your host, Mashal Mahmoud.